I never planned to return to the ruins of my old life, and for 6 months after my divorce, I didn't. I left Seattle with 4 suitcases and a body full of exhaustion, landing in Barcelona with no plan except not being her anymore, the woman who had spent 9 years shrinking herself to fit inside Silas Montgomery's world. For half a year, I lived without his voice, his rules, his shadow. I didn't think about the townhouse on Capitol Hill, the long dinners where I learned to keep my opinions soft and my colors softer, or the woman who had stood beside him at those corporate parties with a smile too polished to be innocent. 6 months of stillness, 6 months of learning to breathe again, and then, on a warm October afternoon, while I was seated at a cafe on a narrow street in Gracia, sketching ideas for a client, his name appeared on my phone. Silas, I froze, my entire nervous system surged in protest. My thumb hovered over the decline button. I was supposed to be done with this, gone, rewritten. Barcelona wasn't a vacation. It was escape, rebirth, exile all at once. But something, curiosity, stubbornness, the ghost of the girl I used to be, stopped me from ending the call. I lifted the phone. Hello. His voice cracked. Thea. 2 syllables dragged across gravel. I'd never heard him sound like that. Uncomposed, shaken, messy. I need to ask you something. No greeting, no apology, not even a strained attempt at civility. What is it? I asked. He inhaled sharply, the way he did when a client had just detonated their own case. Did you know Victoria was married? I blinked. What did you know? He said, voice splintering, and not tell me. For a moment, the entire street seemed to tilt. Glasses clinked. Scooters buzzed past. Someone's dog barked. My heartbeat drowned it all out. Silas, I said slowly, what are you talking about? There was a trembling silence. Then, my wedding was today. Thea was, not is, to Victoria. He continued, except she's already married to Robert. A breath. My brother, she never divorced him. I leaned back in my chair so suddenly the legs scraped the pavement. He kept talking, rushed, frantic, unraveling, but his words drifted into background noise. Because to understand why that phone call felt like cosmic justice arriving 6 months late, you have to understand the woman I was before Barcelona. The gradual erosion that turned me into someone who couldn't recognize her own reflection. How I became a person who needed an entire continent of distance to breathe again. Before Silas, I had been someone. I met him when I was 24, working at a cramped graphic design studio on Capitol Hill. Paint, stained jeans, chipped nail polish, and scalp still smelling like acrylic from the night before. I loved color. I loved chaos. I loved the freedom of creating without needing permission. One rainy afternoon, I sat at a corner table of Victrola coffee, hunched over a half-finished logo for a local band, pencils everywhere. Half-drunk mocha, headphones in, a shadow fell across my sketchbook. You're really talented. A man said. His voice carried the easy confidence of someone born into the world of closed-door meetings and expensive briefcases. Silas Montgomery, tall, polished, tailored charcoal suit, a presence that filled space like he'd purchased the rights to do so. I mistook his attention for admiration, not assessment. I mistook his interest for connection, not opportunity. We dated for 2 years. He introduced me to corporate fundraisers, firm cocktail hours, charity galas where I never seemed to know which fork to use. I thought he was showing me the world. I didn't realize he was subtly demonstrating how my world was too small, too childish, too. Me, the proposal happened at a 4 Seasons charity gala with hundreds of people watching, silk dresses, champagne towers, applause that felt more like pressure than celebration. I said yes. I won't pretend I was forced. I wasn't. I walked willingly into a marriage that polished me into someone more suitable, more appropriate, more refined. Piece by piece, year by year, Silas sanded away the parts of me that didn't match his aesthetic. My colorful wardrobe slowly became blacks and navy blues. My art collective meetings became a childish hobby, replaced by firm dinners. My friend Jenna, loud, brilliant, chaotic Jenna, became emotionally draining. My family dinners in Portland became obligations Silas gently discouraged until I stopped going. By year 8, my paints were dry, my brushes stiff, my sketchbooks dusty. The easel went into the basement because it cluttered the living room. By year 9, Even I couldn't find myself anymore. And then Victoria Ashford, the woman who would replace me, didn't arrive like a threat. She slipped in with charm, professional polish, and laughter that filled rooms the way mine once had. The new CFO of a major client, introduced with glowing praise. She admired my work. She complimented my shoes. She touched my arm lightly when she said I had so much creative potential, and suggested, with a sweet smile, that I consider an MBA. I thought she liked me. I didn't know she was studying me, learning the rhythm of my presence so she could match Sila's better than I ever had. Soon her name was everywhere in his stories. Victoria said this. Victoria recommended that. Victoria and I are working on a presentation. The late night meetings started. The weekend work sessions, the client drinks, the Uber rides home. I trusted him. I shouldn't have. The divorce came calmly, clinically, like a business proposal. Silas explained, with the steadiness of someone negotiating a settlement, that we'd grown apart, that I needed someone more aligned with my creative temperament, that he needed someone who understood the demands of his career. I signed the papers. I believed him. 3 weeks after I moved out, Jenna sent me the photo. Silas and Victoria, champagne flutes raised, his hand resting on her lower back with the casual intimacy of habit. A caption beneath them, power couple. They had waited exactly 2 weeks before going public. Everyone knew. Everyone but me. That was the moment I bought the Barcelona ticket. 4 suitcases, a remote design job, a small apartment on a narrow street where strangers didn't know my history. I painted again, I wore bright colors, I made messy friends, I lived loudly, I was healing. Then came the October phone call. Tell me exactly what happened, I said. Silas took a shaky breath. The wedding was at the Woodmark Hotel. Ceremony perfect, vows perfect, reception perfect. That word, perfect, began sounding like a hinge about to snap. Then during the cake cutting, his voice cracked. A man stood up. I didn't recognize him at first. He looked older, had a beard, but he walked to the front like he belonged there. I felt my stomach twist. He introduced himself, Silas said, and the entire room froze. What did he say? Silas swallowed audibly. He said his name was Robert Keegan, and that he was there because his wife forgot to invite him to her wedding. The cafe around me blurred. Someone dropped a spoon. A scooter revved past. Reality dimmed at the edges. Your brother. I whispered, yes. His voice broke. Robert, my brother. I remembered Robert, quiet, thoughtful, gone from family gatherings without explanation. I'd assumed he'd drifted away. Silas had always painted him as unstable, dramatic, difficult. Victoria had painted him that way too. She isolated him. Silas whispered, just like she isolated you. Just like she isolated me from you. What happened after he announced it? Chaos. His voice shook uncontrollably. Robert had proof, the marriage certificate, never dissolved. Emails she sent him 3 months ago saying she wasn't ready to divorce. He'd hired a private investigator when she vanished from his life. They tracked her straight to me. There was a soft, ragged sound. Silas crying. I'd never heard it before, not even during our divorce. She told me Robert was manipulative, toxic, that distancing myself was best for everyone. She engineered the family falling out so I'd never ask questions. My throat tightened. Silas, I began, but he wasn't listening. She studied me, Thea. She studied us. Everything she pointed out about our marriage. The flaws, the imbalances. She used it to present herself as the solution. She mirrored everything I said I wanted. Yes. I thought she had done that to me too, and now, he broke again. Now I'm the fool who walked into a marriage that wasn't even legally possible. I stared at my cold coffee, listening to the man who dismantled me slowly realize he'd been dismantled by someone sharper, faster, and far crueler. For the first time, he tasted what it felt like to be blindsided by betrayal he never saw coming. Silas finally asked the question he had called me for. Thea, did you know? No. You're sure? I straightened in my chair, spine tall, voice steady in a way it had never been with him before. Silas, I left your life 6 months ago. I didn't know anything about Victoria except that you chose her. Whatever she did after I left, that's between the two of you. He exhaled shakily. I didn't deserve you. He whispered. No, I said calmly. You didn't. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Barcelona continued moving, laughter, clinking glasses, a guitar drifting from somewhere down the street, life, vibrant and unbothered, unfolding around the ruins of Silas's voice. He was unraveling. I was finally whole, thank you for answering, he said after a long silence. I hope. I replied, you find clarity in what comes next, and I hope you learn to see the people you choose, for who they really are. He let out a strangled noise. Sadness, regret, maybe understanding. Thea. I didn't let him finish. Goodbye, Silas. And for the first time in 9 years, I ended the call first. The universe rarely balances its scales neatly. But on that October afternoon, in a tiny Barcelona cafe smelling of espresso and orange blossoms, it came awfully close. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need closure. I didn't need him to hurt the way I did. All I needed was the truth. I had never been the problem, and I never would be again.